What's up, peeps? It's me. I'm back, and I'm coming to you now with what I consider some breaking news. At least some important news. Okay, and this makes the second time I've done this video because I found out some more information in the process of editing the other video. I found out some important information, so I just decided I was just going to do it over. So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody's being smart, and I hope everybody is staying on code. Now let's get right into this because for those of you who have seen the video that I did on my personal experience with my daughter and gender dysphoria, you know that this is a subject that's close to my heart. And as a matter of fact, one of my subscribers is the one that put me onto this story, okay? And by him putting me onto this story, I want to say thank you him for putting me onto this story and me finding out some information. So let's get right into this, okay? All right, now, okay, the first story that I want to bring to you is I want to talk to you about Utah, right? And this is coming from NPR. It was by the Associated Press, January 29, 2023. So this has only been a couple of days ago. So this is brand new. This is brand new information. This is a brand new story. This is some stuff that's just happening. Well, it's some stuff that's just manifesting. It's been in the kitchen cooking for a minute, okay? Utah's governor has signed a bill banning gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Those are minors. Those are people under the age of 18, right? So let's get on into this. Salt Lake City, Utah's Republican governor on Saturday signed bills that ban youth from receiving gender-affirming health care and allows families to receive scholarships to pay for education outside the public school system. Both measures that are part of larger nationwide movements. Governor Spencer Cox, who had not taken a public position on the gender care measure, signed it a day after the legislator sent it to his desk. Utah's measure prohibits transgender surgery for youth and disallows hormone treatments for minors who have not yet been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a very real mental disorder. Like I said, for those of you who have watched that video, you know that I give the definition of gender dysphoria in that video. For those of you who do not know, look up what gender dysphoria is, and I'll have a link to that video in the description box so you can listen to it and you can find out what gender dysphoria is, what it entails, the whole 9 yards. The state's Republican-dominated legislature prioritized the ban and considered a first draft of the measure less than 10 days ago, 2 days after the legislature opened this year's session, January the 17th. Cox's approval of the bill comes as lawmakers in at least 18 states consider similar bills targeting health care for young transgender people. Well, yeah, they're young, but we're talking about folks under the age of 18. We're talking about folks who aren't even old enough to vote. We're talking about folks who can't go buy a pack of cigarettes, who can't go buy a beer. You understand what I'm saying? We're talking about folks who can't get a driver's license and get insurance unless they're on their parents' insurance. But they can do all of this without the consent of their parents, without the knowledge of their parents as young as 10, 11, 12 years old. And they're talking about prohibiting the use of puberty blockers, giving them all this hormone treatment and hormone therapy and all of this kind of stuff, all the stuff that they do to prepare them for surgery, to prepare them to mutilate their bodies at the early ages of 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, before their brains have even had a chance to mature. Okay? So let's keep going. Cox explained in a statement that his decision was based on his belief that it was prudent to pause these permanent and life-altering treatments for new patients until more and better research can help determine the long-term consequences. And there are consequences. We're finding out more and more and more as more and more quote-unquote transgender people come out and talk about how much they regret having these surgeries and mutilating their bodies this way. More and more down through the years, more and more coming out. They're talking about the depression that's attached to it, the suicidal thoughts that are attached to it. Some of them actually have committed suicide because they get so depressed that they went through all of this stuff to mutilate their bodies, to change their bodies and all of that. And at the end of the day, you still what you were born to be. It doesn't change who you are. Okay? While we understand our words will be of little comfort to those who disagree with us, we sincerely hope that we can treat our transgender families with more love and respect as we work to better understand the science and consequences behind these procedures, he said. Among the critics is the ACLU, of course, the American Civil Liberties Union of Utah, which on Friday urged Cox to veto the bill. In its letter to Cox, the Civil Rights Organization, and of course, since we had a civil rights movement, we're the only folks in the United States or anywhere else that's ever had a civil rights movement. Now everybody wants to piggyback off of our civil rights movement, and everybody wants to claim to be a civil rights organization. But the ACLU has never stomped for black people like this. The ACLU has never stomped and stood up for black folks like this. Okay? In its letter to Cox, the Civil Rights Organization said it was deeply concerned about the damaging and potentially catastrophic effects this law will have on people's lives and medical care, and the grave violation of people's constitutional rights it will cause. Okay, where is it in the Constitution that says that you have a right to use taxpayers' money to try to change your gender? Where is it in the Constitution that says you have a right to do that? Where is it in the Constitution that says that you have a right when you want to do something, you understand what I'm saying, to impede on everybody else's rights just because you want to do something, or just because you want to identify as this, that, and the third, or whatever? Okay? By cutting off medical treatment supported by every major medical association in the United States, the bill compromises the health and well-being of adolescents with gender dysphoria. It ties the hands of doctors and parents by restricting access to the only evidence-based treatment available for this serious medical condition, and impedes their ability to fulfill their professional obligations. So it's a serious medical condition. It's also a mental disorder, but the way you treat it is by helping these people live out this fantasy that you know can never be real. That's the way you treat it. By helping these people live in this delusion and pushing these people to continue to believe more and more and more and more and more in this delusion. Anyway, I'm just reading. The bill's sponsor, Senator Mike Kennedy, a Republican family doctor, has said government oversight is necessary for vital health care policies related to gender and youth. Cox also signed another measure that would give students school choice style scholarships to attend schools outside the public education system. The bill also increases teacher pay and benefits in an effort to ease the state's teacher shortage. So, Utah has become the first state to ban gender-affirming care for minors. Only those under the age of 18, minors, right? Which prohibits the surgeries and the puberty blockers and all this hormone treatments and all of that kind of stuff that they give them in preparation for surgery. So that's what's being banned, right? Okay, now let's move on. Looks like Tennessee is about to follow suit, right? It says, I got this article from the Tennessean. This came out January 31st. Okay, where's my, hold on, y'all. They doing some crazy stuff. Here it is. This came out, well, this is when it first came out. This is when they were first proposing the bill. Now, they first proposed this bill in Tennessee. They first proposed this ban on gender-affirming care for minors. They first proposed it in November. Right? And let me just read a little bit to you about this. This article is by Frank Gluck. Published November the 9th, 2022. So like I said, they've been in the kitchen cooking these things up. Tennessee lawmakers on Wednesday proposed a ban on gender-affirming care in the form of a bill that would allow children to later sue their parents for providing them such treatment and subject doctors to punishment up to a generation after knowingly violating the law. So if you do this after this ban is passed, after this law is passed, if you still do this and you're found out about, they have up to 20 years that they can sue you. If ultimately approved in the state's GOP-dominated General Assembly, it will be among the nation's strictest bans. House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 calls for bans on medical procedures that alter minors' hormonal balance and procedures that remove organs when performed for the purpose of enabling a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with the minor's sex. Now remember, when we went over the definition of gender dysphoria, that's what it is. Gender dysphoria basically is when your mind and your body won't agree. Your body is male, but your mind is saying, no, 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 no. You're female, you were just born in the wrong body. Or vice versa. Then you just can't get the two to mesh. You can't get the two to come into agreement. So you go through all of these physical things. You understand what I'm saying? Puberty blockers, hormone treatments, surgery, all of this stuff to try to get the body to look like what your mind is saying it should look like. Even though it doesn't change what the body is. It just changes how the body looks. It might change a little bit how the body functions because you're removing certain things that you shouldn't be removing, certain reproductive organs and that kind of stuff, but it still doesn't actually change the body, and it certainly doesn't change the chromosomes, the DNA, none of that. Right? So let me read that again. House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 calls for bans on medical procedures that alter minors' hormonal balance and procedures that remove organs when performed for the purpose of enabling a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with the minor's sex, or treating purported discomfort or distress from a concordance between the minor's sex, his real sex, her real sex, and the asserted identity, the sex that you say you supposed to be. So you got the real thing, and then you got the one that you feel like. You got the real sex, what you were born as, and then you got the one that your mind tells you feel like, okay? And all of these surgeries and all of these medical treatments and all of these medical procedures and all of this are not meant to help you come to grips with who you are and who you were created to be. No, they're meant to make you think that you can live as the sex that you think you are or you feel like you are, okay? The bill allows the courts to impose $25,000 fines for each violation and allow the Attorney General to bring an action against a health care provider for violations up to 20 years after they happen. The Attorney General would also be required to establish a process for reporting such violations. Children born with chromosomal anomalies or congenital or defects would be explicitly exempted from the law. Right? Let me read what Lambert said. And Lambert is one of the people that helped to introduce and propose and write up this bill. Lambert says, interfering or destroying the healthy, normal reproductive organs of a child for the purpose of altering their appearance is profoundly unethical and morally wrong. Tennesseans across our state have demanded an immediate call to action. Through the passage of House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1, Tennessee will protect vulnerable children who cannot give informed consent for adult decisions they aren't ready for. Johnson said in his own prepared statement, this bill is about protecting children. Under no circumstances should minors be allowed to undergo irreversible elective procedures to manipulate body parts and intentionally harm their reproductive systems. This practice comes with lifelong health complications that children are not capable of understanding. Because a lot of times, most of the time, I would probably say 98 to 100% of the time, when these people have these transitional surgeries and they have these surgeries to transition to the other sex and all of that, they spend the rest of their lives on different drugs. They spend the rest of their lives on hormones and all kinds of things to keep that to try to keep that facade going. To try to keep them living in that delusion, they have to be on all kinds of drugs. Sometimes they have to be on psychotropic drugs for the mental stability, all of that. So it's a gold mine for the pharmaceuticals and for the doctors. It's a gold mine. It's a gold mine for them. Okay, but let's go on over here. Hold on. I got one more. Because if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Tennessee voted on it today. So let's see if we got any kind of update. Because they voted on it today. Let's see if we have anything on that. All right, there we go. Because it actually, now, like I said, they started this process back in November. November 22, they started this process. Well, today was the day that it was actually supposed to go before these two committees, right? So, this is the Tennessean, published today at 5:35. It was updated at 7:42. Tennessee bill to ban trans treatment for minors advances in the committee. A Republican-backed bill to ban certain medical treatments for transgender youth cleared its first hurdle in the Tennessee General Assembly on Tuesday. Republicans last year filed the legislation, the first of the session, to ban medical procedures, medications, and surgeries when performed for the purpose of enabling a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with the minor's sex, or treating purported discomfort or distress from a discordance between the minor's sex and asserted identity. We just read that. The bill would allow current patients undergoing these treatments to continue under certain circumstances, under certain conditions. House Majority Leader William Lambeth, a Republican from Portland, and Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, a Republican from Franklin, introduced the proposal, which they dubbed the Protecting Children from Gender Mutilation Act. Lambeth alleges the medical treatments are experimental and dangerous, though medical experts such as the American Medical Association have called similar bills a dangerous intrusion into the practice of medicine. Love these children, support these children. Get them through adolescence. Just get them to 18, Lambert said, and then they can make whatever decision they want to. And that's exactly, y'all know how I feel about that. But I agree 100%. But this is because people are noticing. People see it. People see how children are being targeted. People see the foolishness that's going on in these classrooms. People see the foolishness that's going on Disney and Nickelodeon and all of this with these cartoons with same-sex relationships and the first transgender this and then in the movies with the first transgender that and the first same-sex. They see this stuff being pushed, really being pushed heavily on children. on young children. Drag queen story time for 2- and 3-year-olds. And we're all seeing the videos where all of these teachers are coming out talking about they came out to their students and told their students that they were binary or that they were trans or whatever. We got this trans teacher walking around in a classroom with these big, huge fake boobs and the nipples protruding and all. This is the kind of foolishness that's going on in these classrooms, and children can't learn anything because they're trying to indoctrinate them into these lifestyles and trying to push this on them, and then being told that they can talk to adults and they can get counseling and all this kind of stuff from different adults without their parents being present or without their parents even knowing anything about it. A similar Alabama bill has been temporarily blocked in federal court as the state prepares for what will likely be an expensive legal battle, while then Republican Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson vetoed a similar law in 2021, calling it vast government overreach. The bill cleared the House Health Subcommittee on Tuesday, but has not yet been assigned to a full Health Committee agenda. Testimony on SB 1, the Senate version, is expected Wednesday when the bill is heard in the Senate Health and Welfare Committee. The bill was proposed after controversy erupted last fall over Vanderbilt University Medical Center providing some gender-affirming treatments to teenagers. Conservatives allege Vanderbilt pushed the treatments as a money-making scheme. Vanderbilt started its gender-affirming care program in 2018. No gender-altering surgeries are performed on children, though the hospital said it has performed an average of 5 breast reduction surgeries on minors older than 16 each year since the program started. Now, in one of the stories when I first did this video, this was before it had reached, it had been passed on. This is before it had advanced to in the committee. They talked about Matt Walsh. And they talked about Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is a guy that does documentaries and all of this kind of stuff. He documents this stuff. Look him up on YouTube. I think it's MattWalsh, Matt Walsh. He does these videos about transgenders, about what is a woman and all of this. I mean, he goes deep into it. And he has interviewed a lot of transgender people that have had these surgeries, have had these mutilations done to their bodies and all of this. And as they got older, they just really hated it. They resented it. They were not happy about it at all. They were depressed. I mean, it was awful. And so he had a big part to play in helping to push this bill right here in Tennessee. So we see that this banning of gender-affirming care for minors is building steam. It's building steam in the United States, as it should. Because if we can't protect our children, we can't protect nobody. You know, and it's clearly an agenda that's being pushed on children. I've already told you what it is. We just talked about it in the video that we did on the sex trafficking and the pederasty and the pedophilia and all of that. That's the reason why they're pushing this stuff so hard. Because if parents will sit back and parents won't object, there's no backlash to you allowing your 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old to make a decision like that without you. Without your consent, without your participation, in some cases, even without your knowledge. Then that makes it a whole lot easier when they decide that they want to start lowering the age of consent. This is all about trying to get rid of the age of consent. That's what this is all about. Trying to get rid of the age of consent. Trying to act like kids as young as 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old are old enough to decide whether they want to be sexual or not. Or whether or not they want to be sexually involved with an older person. That's what all of this is leading to. And if we don't get it together, especially us in the black community, because we see how they're targeting black children. We see how they're targeting black men. We see how they're doing everything that they can to emasculate and feminize black men. We see the role reversal that they have going on. All the black men are running around switching and with nails on and all feminine, and the black women are all butch, and they trying to act like it's the black women that are running everything, and the black women got to do all the heavy lifting and all of that. So we need to pay attention to what's going on. Okay, but now I bring you to the story that now I bring you to the story that really got my attention, right? And I bring you to what my subscriber sent me, that sent me on this little research screen so that I could bring y'all this video. And I want y'all to listen very carefully, because I could read what he said, but I want you guys to hear it from the horse's mouth. And this is Donald Trump talking about banning gender-affirming care for minors, right? And this video was just put up today. And it comes from Forbes Breaking News, and it was just put up today. So I want y'all to listen very carefully and listen to what Trump has to say on this subject. Let me turn it up, because I want to make sure y'all can hear it real good. All right, here we go.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It will go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare, and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make...
Now I want to say this right here about the only two genders being male and female. You know, they talk about, oh, there's supposed to be 100 genders, and there's supposed to be so many different genders and all this, and this spectrum of genders and all that. But it's funny how when transgender people decide that they're going to transition, right? They either transition one way or the other. Either they go from male to female or female to male. I have not seen a transgender that has gone to any other gender. I have not seen a transgender that has gone from a male to because I can't think of the names of any of them. So if there's so many other genders out here, then why are you just stuck on those two? Because either you're a man that's trying to transition into a woman, so either you're a male trying to transition into a female, or you're a female trying to transition into a male. I have not heard one transgender person say that they were transitioning into anything other than male or female. So that right there just lets you know there are only two genders. Either you're one or the other. Right? Because even the transgender people, you understand what I'm saying? If you start out male, either you're male or you transition and then you become female, not something else. For the transgender men, you're a female. Okay, if you transition, then you become a male. There's nothing else. So those are the only two genders that we ever hear anything about. We don't hear anything else about any other genders. Now we hear about this non-binary mess and this fluid mess and all of that, although what that's supposed to mean, I have no idea. I guess the non-binary are the folks that they not either male or female. Okay, well then you just ain't human. Because everything was either born male or female. Whether that be in the human animal or in the animal kingdom. So if you just non-binary and you ain't male or female, then you just ain't nothing. You just ain't nothing. So that's what I wanted to say about him pinpointing that, you know, we need. It's sad that we have gotten to this point, but it was time for somebody to say, okay, hold up, wait a minute. It's time for this lunacy to stop. It's time for this crazy mess to stop, especially when you're pushing it this hard at innocent children. Let's keep going.
Clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end.
It needs
Thank you very
to.
much.
Now that's Donald Trump on banning gender affirming care for minors. Not for adults, not for people over 18. They can make their own decisions. You know, you've had some life experience. You've lived long enough. Now, I don't think 18 is old enough, but oh well. Legally, you're no longer a minor. Because at 18, I still don't think your brain has developed enough. And you probably still haven't been enough to, haven't had enough life experience to be making that kind of drastic decision, because you can't go back. You can't turn back the clock. Once you have these surgeries and you cut off these certain parts and you take out these certain parts and all that, you can't go back. So to even suggest that a minor child is old enough and wise enough and understands enough about life to make a decision like that is crazy. And NBC did an article talking about what Trump had to say. And you know, most of this is, I'll just read a little bit of it to you. NBC News. This came out today, 3:27 p.m. by Alex Sitzwald and Joe Urkaba. I'm assuming that these were immigrants because they sound like immigrant names, but whatever. Former President Donald Trump vowed in a video released Tuesday that if reelected, he would punish doctors who provide gender-affirming care to minors and push schools to promote positive education about the nuclear family and the roles of mothers and fathers as part of a wide-ranging set of policies to use federal power to target transgender people. So, of course, all the liberals, all the radical right wing, you know, they're all gonna say that this is transphobic and this is targeting transgender people and all of that. No, actually, it's meant to stop you from targeting innocent kids. It's actually meant because they even put out, if I'm not mistaken, this was a couple of weeks ago, they even put out an article talking about how you can tell whether or not your infant, your newborn baby, is transgender. So, I mean, this stuff has become a serious, serious issue. In the straight-to-camera video posted on his Truth Social platform, Trump said he would task several federal agencies to police and ultimately stop gender-affirming care for minors, which he equated to child abuse and child sexual mutilation. He said he was also prohibit any federal agency from doing work to promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age, not just for minors. The proposals are likely to be met with staunch opposition from LGBTQ rights advocates who are fighting similar ideas across the country, calling them detrimental to trans people. Gender-affirming care, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, consists of an array of services that may include medical, surgical, mental health, and non-medical services for transgender and non-binary people. This is exactly what he said. The left-wing gender insanity being pushed at our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. So, of course, I'll have this article as well listed in the description box. But so Trump is on this. Is on this crusade, as well as some as many other red states, GOP states, to ban gender-affirming care for minors. And I'm all for it. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm all for it. Because the way they pushing this with these children and indoctrinating these children, and the kind of foolishness that we have actually seen in classrooms across the United States in the last 3, 4, 5 years, and nobody can say anything about it, because if you say anything about it, oh, you transphobic, oh, you stepping on these people's civil rights and constitutional rights and all of this, if you disagree or if you call them out for the foolishness. And you have to understand, Obama, let's be honest, Obama, that Trojan horse that they gave the black community, Obama did more to usher in this lunacy and all of this crazy mess that we're seeing right now. He did more to usher this in than any sitting president in the United States has ever done. That's the reason why they call him the quote-unquote gay president. So, you know, just watch out for this. Watch out for this in your own state. You understand what I'm saying? Do some research to find out whether they have been proposing or thinking about proposing any bills like this in your own state and all of that. We all have a right to our own personal opinions about it, and whatever the case may be. I have absolutely nothing to do with how grown folks choose to live their lives. If you choose to live in a fantasy, if you choose to live in a delusion, that's your business. But this mess needs to stop being pushed on innocent children. Children can't go to school anymore and just learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now all of this identity stuff and all of this sexuality and all of this sexualization and all of this is being thrown at them, like I said, as early as 2 and 3 and 4 years old. You're not going to tell me that you're not trying to indoctrinate them, that there's not an agenda at work when you got drag queens reading to 2- and 3-year-olds and explaining to them about the drag queen life, talking to them about the drag queen life, letting them know what it means to be a drag queen. You can't even go on YouTube no more. You can't watch Blue's Clues. You can't. The kids can't watch anything anymore that does not somehow or another come back and relate to all of this gender politics and gender identities and all that. So their innocence is being stripped from them, and they're being forced to live in this madness, in this delusion, along with these adults. And that's just not fair. That's just not right. So I'm glad somebody has said, okay, we need to stop the madness. We need to stop this foolishness. But that's what I wanted to bring y'all. I wanted to bring y'all this information. I wanted to let you know that Utah has already passed it. Utah has already banned gender affirming care for minors. Tennessee is pushing it through the different committees, and other states are proposing them and looking at legislation to do this. And Trump is talking about doing, if he's reelected, he's talking about doing it on a federal level. And these are the things that we need to know about. These are the things that are happening that we're being distracted from. When other stuff happens, and the news cycle just wants to keep on talking about it, keep on talking about it, keep on talking about it, they're trying to distract you from something else that's going on. And this is some of the stuff that's going on that really, really matters at the end of the day, because it affects our children. And we're being distracted from seeing some of this and from knowing what's really going on around us. Okay? All right, so that's the reason why I wanted to bring y'all. Like I said, all of this information will be down in the description box. You can go to that video and you can hear what ex-president, whatever you got, former president Donald Trump had to say about all of this. And like I said, find out whether or not it would do you to find out whether or not your state is looking at proposing or looking at passing some kind of bill like this that would ban gender-affirming surgeries and treatments and puberty blockers and all this kind of stuff for minors in your state, right? So, yeah, y'all, that's it. Y'all make sure to like this video, make sure to share this video, have these conversations on some social media, outside of social media. Make sure to hit that bell notification so you can be notified when we upload videos. I'll be back with y'all tomorrow. I might upload the video tonight, I'm not sure. But definitely I'll be back with y'all tomorrow, because there's some more information. There's some new information. There's some information that needs to be talked about as far as Tyree Nichols is concerned. And his case and the officers involved in his murder. There's some more information there, so I will definitely be back with you so we can talk about some of that. All right. Again, y'all make sure you stay safe. Make sure you stay smart. Make sure you keep your power tools at the ready, and most importantly, stay on code. And like I said, I also have the video that I did, well, probably both of them. The video that I did on pedophilia and pederasty, I'll have that link down in the description box, and also the video that I did on gender dysphoria, my personal experience with it. I'll also have that link down in the description box as well. Okay, so y'all make sure to have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys later.